Welcome back to Entrepreneur Country TV. This is edition 32. We're pleased to share with you some excerpts from our recent David and Goliath dinner. This is courtesy of Credit Suisse, who hosted the event with us, and with excerpts from interviews of leading entrepreneurs that were there at the dinner. Ed Bussey of Quill, Sasha Zakaria of the Change Group, and other entrepreneurs who are talking about the stages of company development and how to get initial funding in and the de-risking points towards exit. Ariadne Capello has 15 years of experience helping entrepreneurs negotiate the labyrinth from funding to exit.
For any sort of founder, CEO, fundraising is always a challenge, both in terms of the time it takes, but also the funding strategy. How do you approach it and yield the best possible results? So, whilst I've been through this a whole number of times previously, there's always more to learn. So I was keen to hear what we'd learned tonight.
Set up an investment company, Verso Capital, concentrating on investments in technology-led businesses that have the potential to scale quickly and be disruptive. One in particular is a business called Cortext, which is a digital textbook distribution business and was partnered with the world's biggest publishers, McGraw-Hill, Pearson, Wiley, in terms of helping them transition their content from print to digital. And then it's also got a very key strategic relationship with Microsoft. I think the general theme of digital disruptors and that dance, for want of a better word, between the traditional players in an industry and then new entrants, and how they can help the older companies or the traditional companies actually reposition themselves. And yeah, I mean, it's an intriguing arena.
I was originally an engineer and joined Inventis after university, having spent some time with the Royal Air Force, and was an aerospace engineer for a couple of years, and then co-founded the Change Group International with my parents back in 1992, and I joined full-time in 1995. And I spent a lot of time doing M&A work, going around the world looking for new acquisitions for our group, setting up new companies in new territories. Tonight, what I'm interested to learn about is some of the changes that have been occurring in raising funding. Obviously, there's a number of M&A deals happening out there. We looked at a couple quite recently, and we're interested to see about funding sources for some of our aspirations.
OSTCFX is a deliverable foreign exchange company. We transfer money for individuals, companies, corporations who have a physical need for the transfer, import, export, etc. The FX market is still a mystery to some people, and we're trying to approach it in a more transparent and educational way. We're working closely with Ariadne at the moment. We are investors into their fund, which is great, and we're also looking to work alongside them to raise some money to take OSTCFX to the next level.
I think the UK has become a much better place to raise capital for businesses like Quill than it used to be. There are more places to raise those funds from, there's more money available, but I think there's still a ways to go. I know some of my US peers really well in this space. The speed and ease with which they are able to raise equivalent amounts of capital is just a lot easier at much better valuations. And clearly the US is a bigger market, so they can talk a bigger growth story. We've come a long way, but I think there's still some ways to go.
The US is obviously far more gung-ho, and there seems to be a lot more of an appetite there to place bets. And investors as in a group will often back multiple different businesses with a view of trying to find one or two winners. Whereas here the approach seems to be far more considered, far more laboured, far more intensive. But at the same time, there's plenty of capital here too. I think the key is that any business has to be able to articulate its proposition very clearly and really be able to show a credible path to some kind of earnings-based valuation that investors are happy to buy into.
We had such fantastic feedback from our keynote speakers at the Entrepreneur Country Forum that we wanted to give you more from them, one-on-one to camera. This morning I have Philippe Carriol of BlaBlaCar, one of the leading ride-sharing platform companies here in Europe, as well as Jeremy Waite of Salesforce.com, one of the fastest growing ever software companies, providing cloud services to businesses globally. Enjoy these excerpts from Philippe and Jeremy.
I started in finance, basically working in merging companies for a big bank. But I was fascinated by the idea of creating something and contributing to building projects. So I then left to co-found a private equity firm that was investing in growth companies and project companies in emerging markets. And a little bit down the road, it didn't all go to plan, and the choice opened up again of what I wanted to do, and I decided to switch sides. And that's when I decided to get my hands dirty and join BlaBlaCar to see the operational side of things. And I made a fantastic team and a great project, something I really believed in and I wanted to participate in. BlaBlaCar is a platform that connects drivers going somewhere with empty seats, with passengers going the same way. So essentially we are a mobile app and desktop platform, and it's all about creating this environment to help people connect and travel together. So people used to think, okay, I'm gonna hit the train station and buy a train ticket. Now they can come online and think, okay, what's the best way for me to get to this destination as a function of the time I have, the budget I have, and the experience I want to have on my trip. So people can come and say, okay, do I want a train? Do I want a bus? Do I want a BlaBlaCar? And essentially, that's what we're disrupting. As a small company, innovative, you can go fast and you can do a lot of things. But there are still things that you can do better by using another company. And big companies have helped us in two ways. First, that's on marketing, just sourcing traffic through our marketing channels, but even things like Facebook. And also all the travel websites. There's a lot of people who come to BlaBlaCar after having been through the traditional travel websites. The other thing that you can do is help us get a better product. So for instance, we care very much about safety and security for people who travel on BlaBlaCar. So we had a partnership with AXA, which is a big insurance company, where they provide extra add-on cover for people who travel through the platform. So that's a great example of how a big company can really help and bring something that we could not build ourselves.
People forget that Salesforce is often a hidden technology behind a lot of the businesses that you see every day. If you use Office 365, 400 million customer journeys every day are all powered by Salesforce. So we're really the thin technology layer that is often hidden behind the scenes. It's just that people have chosen to build on our platform, plugged in a lot of different networks and APIs and data sets and CRM sets to figure out, whatever that thing is. So for Philips, it's improving people's lives. For GE, it might be efficiencies on a train or a jet engine. For Coca-Cola, it might be selling more stuff. It's interesting when you've got that kind of platform, because everybody wants to look at not just what you're doing, but what people are doing on your platform. And I think that's probably why, as a company, we move so fast. The thing that I notice more than anything, whether you're talking to a Coca-Cola, Microsoft, GE, one of the biggest companies in the world, or whether you're talking to a new fintech startup, the challenges are often exactly the same. I often cite CEO reports that talk about, our number one priority is understanding our customer needs or speaking to our customers faster. That's no different from a startup with 5 staff trying to build out some new innovation, whether they want to take on Uber or Airbnb or try and invent some new commerce model somewhere. The challenges always come back to exactly the same thing. It just comes back to customer data and understanding what to do with it and how to be respectful of that data so they give the right message to the right person at the right time. And where most people in Europe are making a mistake at the moment is they're thinking, well, we're only small, so we're going to buy a little point solution. And we'll plug all these point solutions together to try and build our own marketing or sales cloud or enterprise, And what they forget is they get into a position, especially if they've done good and they've scaled really fast, as often we hope that the startups will, then they get in a position where it's like, oh my goodness, how do I make sense of this stuff? Because I've got all of these technology stacks everywhere that don't speak to each other. So I think that's my challenge back to small business owners and entrepreneurs. It's like, whatever you buy, make sure that that solution is going to scale and you don't need to change. You don't need to pivot in 3 years. You know, there's a lot of companies that have been able to scale fast because that they've bought solutions early on that just enabled them to grow, and they weren't bogged down, you know, with IT issues.
This brings us to the end of Entrepreneur Country TV once again, edition 32. Thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate your recommendations, your subscriptions to Entrepreneur Country TV, and for sharing this with your network. Look forward to seeing you next week.